Philadelphia news, team of my heart.
The Sixers are about to pull off a trade that sounds absolutely insane on paper, but when you really break it down, this might be the smartest move Daryl Morey has made all season. And I know that sounds crazy, because we're talking about trading away a player who barely even touches the court anymore. A guy averaging 7 minutes per game, someone who's appeared in just 3 games all season. But here's the thing, December 15th is coming up real soon, and on that date, everything changes for Philadelphia. This is huge. If Morey can execute this properly, the Sixers suddenly have a path to fixing their biggest problem without giving up any real assets. Yes, but is this actually genius? Or are we all just trying to make sense of another front office disaster? Because Sixers fans saw this signing happen last summer and immediately knew it was a mistake. And now 6 weeks into the season, it looks even worse than anyone imagined. Not only does this player provide zero value on the court, he's literally taking up a roster spot that could go to someone who actually helps this team compete. We are going to see a completely different Sixers roster after December 15th. So what makes this situation so unique that it could actually turn into a win for Philadelphia? Well, let's just say the explanation isn't what anyone was expecting. The reason this even matters is because on paper, a healthy Sixers team should be competing for the Eastern Conference title right now. They went all in this summer, signed Paul George to a max deal, brought back Joel Embiid on a supermax extension, locked up Tyrese Maxey. This was supposed to be the year everything came together. But instead, we're watching Embiid miss games with mysterious knee issues, Paul George is out indefinitely, and the roster is clogged with dead weight that can't contribute. The Sixers currently sit in the middle of the East, underperforming expectations, and desperately need to make a move. FanDuel has them as the 5th favorite to win the conference, behind the Cavaliers, Celtics, Knicks, and Bucks. You know, a fully operational Sixers team should be better than at least 3 of those squads. But we've never seen a fully operational Sixers team before. It's always something. Always an injury, always a rotation issue, always a chemistry problem. But this year, there's something different. This year, they actually have a solution sitting right in front of them, and it becomes available in exactly 3 weeks. Since the start of free agency, Philadelphia has made a few extremely questionable decisions. They let DeAnthony Melton walk, they didn't address their backup center position adequately, they brought back Kyle Lowry even though he's 40 years old and moving in slow motion. But the most baffling move was committing another year to a veteran shooting guard who was already cooked last season. Dude played just 39 games last year, looked completely washed when he was on the court, couldn't defend anymore, couldn't create his own shot, and was basically reduced to standing in the corner hoping someone would pass him the ball. His three-point percentage dropped, his minutes dropped, his impact dropped. Everything pointed to retirement or maybe a minimum deal with a tanking team where he could mentor young guys. Instead, the Sixers brought him back. And Sixers fans wanted to pull their hair out because what is the logic here? Like, we don't even understand the thought process. You have Maxey and Paul George who need the ball. You have young guys like Jared McCain and Ricky Council who need development minutes. Why are you wasting a roster spot on someone who can't play anymore? It's a mystery. It's like Kawhi Leonard sitting out or Lonzo Ball never being the same after injury. Just a player whose body won't let them contribute anymore.
But here's where it gets interesting. December 15th is the magic date when players who signed new contracts last summer become trade eligible. And that includes this veteran guard. Now you might be thinking, okay, great, but who wants a washed 36-year-old making minimum money who can't even get on the court? Nobody. That's who. And that would normally be the end of the story. But Daryl Morey isn't a normal general manager. Morey has been playing chess while everyone else plays checkers. And there's a real possibility that signing this player was always about setting up a December trade. Think about it. The Sixers needed to fill out their roster. They needed warm bodies for training camp and preseason. They needed veteran minimum contracts to stay under the luxury tax threshold. So instead of signing a random G League guy, they brought back someone with name recognition, someone with playoff experience, someone who could theoretically be packaged in a trade if needed. And now that December 15th is approaching, suddenly this signing makes sense. Not basketball sense, but business sense. Here's how this actually works. The Sixers can package this veteran with a heavily protected second-round pick to a team that's tanking and needs to reach the salary floor. Teams like the Wizards, Pistons, or Blazers, who are actively trying to lose games and develop young players. These teams don't care about getting good players back. They care about collecting assets, even if those assets are just second-round pick swaps 5 years from now. So Philadelphia sends out their veteran guard plus a future second-rounder that will probably convey as nothing, and in return, they get back either another minimum salary guy who actually produces, or they get a trade exception, or they just create an open roster spot to sign someone from the buyout market. That's the genius move. Turn a negative asset into roster flexibility without giving up anything of real value. And there are recent examples of teams doing exactly this. The Lakers traded Patrick Beverley for basically nothing just to open up a roster spot. The Bucks moved George Hill for future considerations. The Nets have made a living salary dumping players nobody wants. It happens every single season, and Morey knows this better than anyone. He did it in Houston constantly. He did it in Philadelphia with Tobias Harris eventually. This is what elite front offices do. They turn mistakes into opportunities. They find creative solutions to roster problems. And if you're a Sixers fan who's been frustrated watching this veteran take up space, you should actually be excited, because December 15th means addition by subtraction.
But there's always a catch, right? The catch here is that Morey actually has to find a trade partner willing to take on this contract. And even though it's minimum money, teams are smart now. They know when they're being used as a salary dump. They know the Sixers are desperate to move this guy. So Philadelphia might have to attach a slightly better pick than they want. Maybe a second rounder that actually has a chance to convey. Maybe they have to take back a slightly worse contract in return. But even if they have to pay a small price, it's worth it to open up that roster spot and create flexibility. The Sixers are trying to compete for a championship right now, this season, and every roster spot matters. You can't afford to have dead weight when Joel Embiid and Paul George are injury-prone, and you need every available body to be someone who can contribute in a playoff series. So yes, signing this veteran looked like the dumbest move of the offseason. Sixers fans roasted Morey for it. National media questioned it. Even the player himself probably knew he was cooked. But if Morey can flip this into roster flexibility starting December 15th, suddenly it looks like four-dimensional chess. Like he knew all along that this was a temporary placeholder contract that would get moved before it ever became a real problem. And that's the difference between good front offices and great ones. Great front offices plan 3 moves ahead. They sign players not just for what they provide on the court, but for what they provide in trade scenarios. They understand the CBA rules better than everyone else. They exploit market inefficiencies. And Daryl Morey has built his entire reputation on being smarter than the competition. Now, here's the reality check. Even if the Sixers successfully move this contract, they still have massive problems. Joel Embiid's knee is still a question mark. Paul George is still 34 years old and injury-prone. Tyrese Maxey is brilliant, but can't carry this team alone. They need their stars healthy, or none of this matters. But assuming health, assuming Joel and PG can get on the court together for 60 games, this team is legitimately scary. They have the best center in the East when healthy. They have an elite two-way wing in George who can guard anybody and create his own shot. They have a young, ascending all-star point guard in Maxey. They have shooters, they have size, they have playoff experience. The pieces are there. They just need to optimize the roster around those pieces. And that starts with moving out the dead weight and bringing in players who actually fit what they're trying to do. Before we wrap this up, quick reminder to smash that like button if you're enjoying this breakdown. Drop a comment below telling me if you think the Sixers can actually win the East this year if everyone gets healthy. And make sure you're subscribed because we're covering every major NBA storyline all season long. I drop 3 videos a week breaking down the biggest news, trades, and drama in the league, so hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. So yes, the Sixers made what looked like their worst free agency decision when they brought back a washed veteran for another season. But if Daryl Morey can turn that mistake into a smart December trade, suddenly the criticism disappears and we're all talking about how genius it was. And by the way, the player we've been talking about this entire video is Eric Gordon, 36 years old, 18-year veteran, and currently the most irrelevant player on the Philadelphia roster. But on December 15th, he might become the most important trade chip they have.